Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're continuing our exciting what if story. What if Sasuke met a Naruto no one really knew? His entire life changed. Before we begin, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss future episodes. If you're enjoying the story, comment below. Sasuke is finally seeing the real Naruto. Now sit back, relax, and discover what happens next as Sasuke gets closer to Naruto's biggest secret. Let's begin. Part 2. Naruto shoveled more cereal into his mouth. He didn't have dinner last night. He was too busy pestering Iruka the entire afternoon. He didn't get home until late. When he arrived, his mother was snoring like a woman who snored a lot. He still couldn't believe that his English teacher had a crush on Kakashi. And why did Kakashi keep changing the subject when he asked him about Iruka? Maybe Kakashi liked Iruka too. Retards. Hiding their emotions wasn't going to make their relationship any better. He devoured 2 bowls of cereal at light speed, then raced upstairs to fix his hair. He wet his hands in the sink and ruffled up his hair with them. He then sifted through a drawer, the one that held all the makeup, and withdrew a permanent marker. Why did he have a permanent marker in his makeup drawer? To draw on his face, of course. He drew 3 whisker-like stripes across both of his cheeks as he did every morning. He ruffled up his hair again, took one last look in the mirror, and went off to his room to pick out his clothes. He suspected that his mother had gone shopping again. She always went shopping at the beginning of each month. He didn't have the time or the energy to take a good look at his clothes last night, so he opted to do so that morning. He threw open the door to his closet and found a few new skirts, and to his amazement, a pair of orange sweatpants. He also had what he thought was an awesome shirt. It was a black, button-up, short-sleeved shirt with a little skull on it. The sleeves were slit at the shoulders, and Naruto thought that was pretty spiffy. He chose a plaid skirt and a pair of candy cane striped, over-the-knee socks. He decided to go for a dark look that day. He wasn't quite sure why, but he didn't feel as chipper today as the first 2 days of school. Nari, he heard his mother's groggy voice croak from her room. Yeah, he answered back, still spinning around the mirror to see how he looked. I didn't get to see you last night. Where were you? Bugging Iruka, he deadpanned. Iruka, one of the teachers at theater camp you said you liked. What's he doing at Konohagakure? He's actually an English teacher. I have his class 6th period. Neat. So, is anything happening in school I should know about? Naruto could hear her feet padding on the kitchen floor. He swore the walls were paper thin. Well, I met this really neat guy named Hyuga Neji, but that was after I made an enemy of another rich dude. Whoa, hold on, you made friends with a Hyuga? Nice going, he hot. Naruto rolled his eyes, yeah, mom. He's kinda hot. You're obsessed with hot guys, you know. I know, his mom piped up from the kitchen. There was the creaking sound of the refrigerator closing, then she spoke up again, so who's the rich bastard who bothered you? Dunno, people say he's loaded though. Some Sasuke guy. All noise ceased downstairs. Naruto wondered what he said wrong. This wouldn't happen to be Sasuke Uchiha, his mom sounded uneasy, would it? Yeah, Naruto poked his head out his door, why? You idiot, his mom screeched and Naruto withdrew his head from the door just as something hit it and shattered. Naruto was shocked. Was this dude really that filthy rich? Mom, he asked when he heard no more curses or breaking of dishes, what's up? He could tell his mom was trying and failing not to get angry. The Uchihas, she wheezed, are the richest, most powerful family in Konoha. They are rich, Naruto, filthy rich. That kid probably wallows in a pool full of $100 bills each morning. And you had to go and make him hate you. Oh sure, the Hyugas are also rich, but not nearly as much as the goddamn Uchihas. Gah, you could have made me a ton of money and what did you do? Naruto hid in his closet. You blew it. You screwed up, Naruto. You screwed up, and now we're screwed over. Sorry, I'll try to apologize to him. Apologize. You've gotta be friggin' kidding me. I will. Naruto whined desperately, I'll offer to work for him to pay him off or something. Lots of money, right? For once his mom seemed to consider the idea. Naruto hoped his plan would work, and when it did, he sighed with relief. Alright, his mom droned, you make money for me and maybe I won't throw you out. There was a joking tone in her voice. Naruto was glad she seemed relaxed. But if you blow your girly secret, you're moving out, here. Her voice turned steely again. Yeah, I won't screw up this time, Mom, I promise. Gaara paced in front of Naruto's locker. He was late. Naruto was very late. It was 7:53, and the blonde was nowhere in sight. He growled to himself and took a seat on the floor. If the blonde maniac didn't arrive soon, he'd leave. 7:54, 7:55, 7:56. Gaara had it. He brushed the dirt off of his trench coat and stomped down the hall. Once in a while he saw a junior or senior cast a nasty look in his direction. He had only to glance at them with those eyes of his before they regretted their actions. Someone stepped in front of him. Gaara merely veered to the left, but was stopped by a large, sweaty hand on his shoulder. "Hey, midget," a low voice mocked, "where ya goin'?" "To my computer class, if you don't mind." He shrugged the older boy's hand off his shoulder, but was stopped again when the same hand grabbed his arm. "Short stuff thinks he's hot stuff, don't he?" Gaara heard snickering from behind. Great, this idiot was in a gang. Or maybe it was a posse. He never did understand ghetto slang. "Look," Gaara began coolly, "I have somewhere to go, you have somewhere to go. Maybe you want me to walk you to class. We'll both be late though, if you insist on holding my hand like a girl." "Ooh, tough guy," the greasy teen sneered. "Bet you couldn't spell that." Gaara deadpanned as if none of this interested him. "I'll kill you right now, kid." The bully snarled and attempted to crush Gaara's arm. The redhead was twisted around to face the sweaty, acne-faced teen. He had a bruise near his eye, brown hair, short stubble on his chin, and a face full of blemishes. Needless to say, Gaara didn't bat an eye. "You think you're invincible, punk? I'll kill you where you stand. But you've never really killed anyone before, have you?" Gaara purred with a sadistic gleam in his eye. The older boy and his team stuttered. Gaara smirked wickedly. "You've never watched someone die before, have you?" They floundered once again. Gaara was enjoying some of the looks he saw crossing their faces. In that case, Gaara cracked his knuckles, "Maybe I can show you what it's like to watch someone die. Any volunteers?" The greasy guys were beginning to sweat. Two of them snuck off silently, afraid to be pulverized by a midget. A bloodthirsty, cannibalistic, murderous midget. Gaara would have sucker punched their acne-overrun faces, but a certain blonde came trotting down the hall and yelling his name. "Gaara, Gaara!" Naruto waved as he tried to catch up with his friend. Gaara watched as the teenage boys took one last look at him before their faces turned ashen. Good, they knew who he was. He had quite the reputation, it seemed. "Hey Gaara, sorry I'm late. My mom got mad this morning." Naruto looked up at the tall, sweaty guys Gaara seemed to be having a conversation with. "Who are they?" he asked, skeptically. "No one," Gaara stated simply, "they were just leaving." Indeed they were. As soon as they assumed it was safe, all of them rocketed down the hallways like they had seen a ghost. "Wow," Naruto blinked, "what do you suppose they were so scared of?" Gaara shrugged, "Probably a bloodthirsty, cannibalistic, murderous midget." Naruto was having a typical day. He had homework in German, homework in geometry, and now homework in science. None of which he planned on doing. There was an awkward silence between him and Neji, one which Neji especially found pleasant, yet disturbing. Neji broke the silence. "You're very talkative today," he droned sarcastically. Naruto shrugged, "I really have nothing to talk about." Gasp. The world. It was ending. Unusual. Neji rested his head on his fist. "Is something bothering you?" "Nah." Naruto flicked his hand at Neji, "I just don't feel like talking." Wow. Wow. The world was ending. The world is ending. Naruto elbowed his friend playfully, "Quiet, you." Neji grinned, so the blonde was herself after all. "You want to eat lunch together again?" Naruto perked up instantly, "Sure." Then he deflated, "But I'm broke. I've got no money." Neji smiled, "That won't matter. I'll pay." He took a wallet out of his pocket and ran his fingers over the edges of a few 20s. "Awesome." Naruto beamed with stars in his eyes. He started chattering Neji's ear off again, but Neji didn't mind. Class ended and students flocked into the halls. Neji and Naruto walked side by side to the front doors of the school. There, they met Gaara. Naruto noticed with rapt fascination that Gaara sat at one side of the hall, bemusedly tapping his boot-clad foot on the floor, while 20 or so older boys huddled against the opposite wall. Naruto briefly greeted Gaara, then the three of them continued their quest to the noodle shop. Neji graciously bought both Naruto and Gaara a cup of ramen. He sat next to Naruto, and consequently got a noodle or two slapped in his face. Gaara was swallowing his first mouthful of noodles when Naruto belched and announced that he was done. The redhead rolled his eyes and sighed. He didn't mention anything to the wild blonde though. He glanced over at Neji. The black-haired Asian boy was brushing noodles off of his clothes in a persnickety way. When he was done tidying himself up, he resumed the action of eating his lunch. Gaara watched as Neji twirled the noodles around his chopsticks before eating them up politely. He must have been practiced in the art of being suave. He smiled to himself. Spoiled rotten rich bastard. Naruto was itching to leave, so despite Gaara's stubbornness, he dragged Neji off by the arm and the short one was compelled to follow. Sasuke spent the entire day with his hood up. He wore a navy blue hoodie to school, and refused to take it off. It was uncomfortable, and he felt incredibly stupid, but he would not take it off. If he did, someone was bound to notice the ginormous hickey on the back of his neck. Normally Sasuke didn't use made-up words, but this was an exception. The thing was indeed ginormous. He went through art class without incident, though Naruto kept casting looks in his direction. The girl looked like she wanted to ask him something, but she hung back. Sasuke wanted to ask her what the hell she wanted, but hung back as well. On his way to health class, Ino and her posse found him in the hall. "Hi Sasuke-kun," they rambled in their hideous voices, "Whatcha doin' Sasuke-kun? Get the away from me kun." He snorted and walked off as usual. He was dissatisfied when he found out they were still following him. "Whatcha doin' after school today Sasuke-kun? God, get them away. Wanna go out with me Sasuke-kun? No, he wants to go out with me, right Sasuke-kun? Shut the up kun." He veered away from the stagnant mass of estrogen and into health class. Ino followed. Why was she stalking him? Oh right, she's got the same class as you, dumbass. Sasuke meandered into class with his head bowed. His hood draped over his eyes and he had his hands shoved in his pockets. He imagined that he looked like a hobo. Hobos were poor. He didn't want to look poor, but he'd pay the price if he pulled his hood down. Kakashi was sitting at his desk as usual, with his head buried in his book. Naruto came in the door with her normal short train of friends trailing along behind her. The three stooges took spots next to each other, a few desks away from Sasuke. Sasuke was discouraged to see that Neji was blocking his view of Naruto. He knew she was wearing something unusual today, but he hadn't gotten a good look at her outfit yet. Sasuke slumped over in his desk. He felt like death. Kakashi shut his book. He stood up in front of the class with his clipboard and was about to give a short speech on today's assignment. Sasuke, instead of the anticipated short speech, Kakashi chose a different subject to talk about. Said boy looked up expressionlessly. What's with the getup? Sasuke raised an eyebrow. Is it ghetto day today, or did you just feel like dressing up like a normal kid for once? Sasuke ignored the silver-haired sensei. Frankly, he didn't like to be ignored. Come here, Sasuke, he commanded. Sasuke got up and trudged over to Kakashi like a bitch. Take off the hood, Sasuke. Now that, Sasuke could not do. No, he said. Unimpressed, the teacher commanded him again to take his hood off. Sasuke refused a second time. Kakashi asked him if he had anything to hide. Sasuke glared at him with dark eyes and replied that no, he didn't. Kakashi then told him that if he had nothing to hide, then he would take his hood down. Sasuke said he didn't want to take it down. Kakashi told him he had to take it down. When Sasuke refused, Kakashi pulled his hood off for him. Rapture occurred. Ino gasped. Sakura scoffed. Neji's eyebrows surged skyward. Gaara frowned. Naruto's jaw dropped, and Kakashi's face went blank. Sasuke's head was screaming in 1,000 different languages. Bad 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 bad. They were all staring at the ginormous, purple and red blemish on his neck, which was accompanied by some nasty-looking puncture marks. Sasuke waited calmly for the uproar which was sure to follow. Sasuke, Kakashi started in a questioning voice, what? I don't want to talk about it, the boy stated while readjusting his hood. He wordlessly returned to his desk and slumped over it again. Kakashi let it go. He resumed his daily routine and passed out papers. He passed wordlessly by Sasuke and left a sheet of paper on the corner of his desk. The stunned room was soon filled with the sounds of pencil scraping on paper. Sasuke drowned the sound out. He wanted to die. He really, truly, seriously wanted to stab his pencil through his ribs and die. But if he did that, some kind soul would probably save his life in the emergency room. God, he hated nice people. Later than he would have liked, the bell rang. Sasuke got up with the intention of leaving the room, but Kakashi stopped him. Students still filed out of the room. Sasuke, what do you want? Come with me a second. Kakashi dragged Sasuke over to a small, adjoining supply closet. It was a cluttered, tiny room with papers lying all over the place. Kakashi shut the door. He leaned casually against the brick wall with his arms crossed. Sasuke did likewise against another wall. When Kakashi said nothing, Sasuke boredly picked a spot in the room and stared at it. So, Mr. Uchiha, Kakashi deadpanned, want to tell me where you got those pretty little marks on your neck, Sasuke stood motionless against the wall. Sasuke. Said boy shuffled his feet with frustration. The silence was getting on his nerves. His lips worked if only to fill the quiet. He paused calmly, looking for the right word, attacked. Kakashi raised an eyebrow, attacked. He was not impressed. Yes, attacked, quote, by a giant leech. A giant leech. Yeah, did this leech have an adult human-sized set of teeth, perchance? It was, a vampiric leech. Kakashi shook his head. You're cruisin' for a bruisin', kiddo. Sasuke snorted, I don't need your sympathy. I'm not sympathetic. Sympathy is for people who actually have a chance. I pity you. You're absolutely hopeless. I figured you would do a few foolish things in your life, but I never thought you'd sell yourself for. You think I'm a whore? If that's what you want to call it. You haven't even heard the goddamn story. Kakashi waved his hands in front of his face in a harmless way. I didn't mean to offend, Sasuke. But if that's the path you want to go down, This wasn't my fault. That horny bastard bit me. Kakashi blinked. I couldn't get him off. He was too damn heavy. Then he gave me a goddamn hickey and I need him in the gut. Damn bastard. What bastard? Orochimaru. I'll gut him. I'll suffocate him in his sleep. No, I'll beat him with a blunt kitchen knife, cut him open with it, play jump rope with his intestines, then eat them while he watches. Silence. Kakashi tilted his head with an impassive expression on his face. Sasuke, were you raped? Pretty damn close. I see. Sasuke felt relieved that he got to let off some pent-up steam. He could breathe now. He turned skeptically to his teacher. Since when do you care? Kakashi's eye was blank. Ask Naruto. She'll tell you everything. What? Sasuke was caught off guard. Meh, I'm tired of repeating myself. Go talk to her. I'll give you a pass so you aren't late. Sasuke wasn't entirely sure what Kakashi meant, but he was led back into the health room and given a pass to his English class. Christ, he was going to be the next Edgar Allan Poe, wasn't he? There was virtually no one in the halls. Sasuke felt a smidgen of thankfulness about that. Those remaining in the halls were either delivering things for teachers, going to the bathroom, or they really didn't give a damn. He traveled to his class without being stopped by fangirls, which was delightful. He invited himself in without an apology for interrupting Iruka, but Iruka didn't bug him. Good. He slumped over his desk like he'd done all day. Shikamaru didn't bother him. The bastard was already half asleep. Naruto, however, kept looking at him like she wanted to talk to him. She'd glance at Sasuke, then think better of herself and turn away. She tapped her fingers together and drew on her arms. The raven-haired boy found it interesting that the angry fox was still lingering on her wrist. She was adding swirl marks all around the fox's face. Sasuke hadn't had a good look at the girl's outfit, so he let his eyes wander. His eyebrows raised. She had a plaid skirt on with candy cane striped stockings. Funny, didn't the emo kids wear stuff like that? And her shirt. The pitch black, button-up shirt went perfectly with her skin and her hair. It made her hair shine like a star on top of her head. And, if it were possible, Sasuke thought her eyes sparkled brighter than ever. And the shoulders were horizontally slit. Damn, sexy stuff. Black was definitely her color. Or technically her lack of color, but that didn't matter now, did it? Sasuke realized he was staring again. He averted his eyes and did as Shikamaru had done. He nearly fell asleep. Class was over in a flash. Now Sasuke knew why Shikamaru slept so much. Sleep made the day much shorter. He watched Naruto tap her fingers together again and cast another glance his way. Maybe she wanted to ask him if he wanted to go out with her. Oh ho ho ho, take that, Neji, you ferret bastard. Sure enough, she was looking at the ground and shuffling over to him like she was embarrassed about what she was going to say. While the rest of the class filed out of the room, Sasuke pretended to gather up all of his stuff. He stopped stalling when the girl began to stutter. She turned like she wanted to leave, but spun around again. Mr. Sasuke, What? Sasuke put on his, with me and you die, facade. I just wanted to apologize. Sasuke raised an eyebrow. 2. Sasuke liked where this was going. Power. Intimidation. Oh, Neji, look. Sasuke's stealing your girlfriend. Whatcha gonna do now, you son of a bitch? To the duck. Naruto's face beamed sadistically. Sasuke's ego trip vaporized. What the hell? I feel sorry for the duck. I said your hair looked like a duck's ass, but I feel like I've insulted the duck. The corner of Sasuke's lip twitched. What in the name of? Bye Sasuke bitch. Naruto blew him a kiss and laughed maniacally into the distance. How? Why? What? When? Where? Who? Sasuke felt like he'd just been shot at point blank. How the hell? What the hell? He sat there for a moment more, then it dawned on him. Bitch. Oh, he was going to burn something tonight. If he found out where Neji lived, he'd set fire to his house. Why Neji and not Naruto? Well, if he burnt Naruto's house down, she'd be cold and hungry and… Blah, you're melting, Sasuke, get your goddamn act together. He stormed off, thinking of 1,000 ways to destroy the city. Naruto paced down the hallways. He wasn't going home tonight. If his mom found out about this, he would be grilled and served as a side dish at a tailgate barbecue. He blew it again. He was such a failure. Maybe he could walk to Gaara's house. After all, it was only 30 or so blocks away. He wove around the corridors, zigzagging around like a deranged bee. He yelped when he felt something pull on his ear. Why on earth are you still hanging around? Naruto glanced behind him to see a slightly amused Kakashi pinching his ear. He grumbled, why are you still here? I'm a teacher. Duh. Naruto smacked himself. Of course. Teachers always stayed after school to do whatever teachers did. Kakashi let go of the blonde's ear. So, he crossed his arms, did you talk to Iruka, like I said? Yep. A huge grin appeared on Naruto's face as he recalled their lovely conversation together. So, Kakashi glanced to one side, then the other, what did he say? Naruto stepped back. Kakashi was right in his face, grinning like a kid in a candy store. Naruto began, I don't think I can tell you. Tell me or I'll flunk you. Okay, he said, well, sort of, that he. Cut the crap, alright, keep your pants on, Jesus. Naruto was now very uncomfortable. Kakashi had a strange look in his eye and the blonde boy wasn't sure he liked it. I was talking to him yesterday, when he was having one of his, no one listens moments, and out of the blue he yells that he doesn't have a crush on you. Which leads me to believe that he's head over heels for you. I bothered him some more and it turns out that he's got this Empire State Building big crush on you and he's had it since high school. He's just too much of a to ask you if you like him. Kakashi blinked. The calm before the storm, Naruto supposed. Then Naruto saw Kakashi do what he'd seen no other teacher do. He cackled like a mad scientist, did a cartwheel, and then a wicked smile appeared on his face before he shut himself in his room with a scheming look in his eye. Just as Naruto was leaving, the door swung open and Kakashi popped out with a sly smirk, tell him anything and you fail. The door slammed shut. Naruto stared blankly at the spot Kakashi had been. Well, wasn't that special? He didn't know what to think. Maybe he should just call Gaara. He wandered over to Iruka's room. The shy, scar-faced pansy was organizing books on his bookcase. He flipped all the books over, the way they were supposed to be, then meticulously put them in alphabetical order. Hey, Iruka! Naruto knocked on the side of the doorway and let himself in. Iruka looked up from his work and was surprised to see his favorite student waiting behind him. Naruto, shouldn't you be home? Won't your mom be worried about you? Worried didn't strike Naruto as the best word. Nah, can you drive me somewhere? Iruka gave him a leery look, will your mom care? Nope, Naruto leaned against a nearby desk, she won't care. As long as I come home in a month, she's fine. Iruka rolled his eyes, well, I suppose I could take you, but I won't be held responsible when your mom gets mad. MMMKAY. Naruto patiently waited for Iruka to fix up his bookcase. Can I call Gaara on your phone? You're going to his house. Yeah, I've gotta warn him first, though. Go ahead. About 2 minutes later, the two of them made their way to Iruka's green minivan. Naruto hopped in the front seat with Iruka, leaving the back completely devoid of life. Iruka started the van and drove out of the nearly vacant parking lot. Naruto flipped through Iruka's CDs. He grumbled when he figured out all Iruka had was old rock music. Why do you listen to old fart music? Naruto pouted. Iruka growled, it's not old fart music. It's classic rock. I happen to like classic rock, so there. Iruka stuck his tongue out at Naruto, then quickly returned his attention to the road. Bet there's no decent headbanging music. Not true. Have you ever heard Immigrant Song by Led Zeppelin? Now that's good shit. Oh really? Yes. Naruto shoved the Led Zeppelin CD in the slot and waited. Here, Iruka cycled through the tracks, I'll find it for you. There, now listen and be amazed. Naruto was blown backward as Iruka blasted the music into his ears. We come from the land of the ice and snow. From the midnight sun where the hot springs blow. Naruto blinked. This was good shit. The hammer of the gods. We'll drive our ships to new lands. To fight the horde, singing and crying. Valhalla, I am coming. I can see that look on your face, Naruto. You like it, don't you? Iruka bounced in his seat triumphantly. On we sweep with threshing oar. Our only goal will be the western shore. Actually, yeah, Naruto's head bobbled around from front to back and side to side. We come from the land of the ice and snow. From the midnight sun where the hot springs blow. How soft your fields so green. Can whisper tales of gore. Of how we calm the tides of war. We are your overlords. Muahahaha, I've converted you, Naruto. Now you don't have to listen to screamo music anymore. On we sweep with threshing oar. Our only goal will be the western shore. I'm never going to stop listening to my music. I'll take it to my grave, thank you very much. So now you'd better stop and rebuild all your ruins. For peace and trust can win the day. Despite of all your losing. I'll make you like my music too. Have you ever listened to what I listen to? No, I want to keep my ears, thank you. Ah, come on, I listen to your shit, so next time you have to listen to mine. Deal. Naruto held out his hand. Iruka hesitated for a moment, but then shook Naruto's hand, deal. The minivan pulled into Gaara's driveway and Naruto hopped out. He waved goodbye to his English teacher before heading to the door. Gaara's house was decent, Naruto supposed. It was a comfy, little, white, one-floored wooden thing with a chain-link fence around the backyard. There was a tree in the front yard and a basketball lay untended in the driveway. Naruto could tell that Gaara's caretaker, Yashimaru, was trying his hardest to make the place look homier. The paint was new, whereas most of the other houses had cracked paint, and there were things in the kitchen window. Naruto saw a stained glass hummingbird, a piece of kirigami, and a note. Naruto couldn't see what the note read. It was taped to the window so someone inside could see it. He rang the doorbell and heard a feminine cry of, "I'll get it." Naruto heard the door unlock. The door was pulled open to reveal the remotely curious face of Gaara's older sister, Temari. She looked as if she were expecting someone else, but sighed with relief when she saw Naruto. She invited him in, then closed the door and locked it. "Downstairs," she said, flopping onto the couch and returning her attention to the TV. Naruto whistled his thanks and hopped down the stairs to the basement after taking off his shoes. He could hear the tapping and humming of the dishwasher as he strolled down the concrete floor. Even through his socks Naruto could feel the cold floor biting into his feet. Gaara normally walked around barefoot down there. Naruto wondered how he could stand it. The smell of detergent gradually increased, then went away when he passed the laundry room. He'd already passed Temari's room, and was rushing past the room of Kankuro, Gaara's older brother. He was younger than Temari, but much stronger. He was notorious for being a smartass when Gaara wasn't around. The blonde really didn't want to run into him, so he zoomed off to his friend's room, which was just around the corner. He got to the door and knocked. "Gaara. It's me, can I come in?" Naruto heard someone shuffling around in the room, then the redhead's voice rang out, "Come in. It's a mess, but you're probably used to it." Naruto heard the door click behind him and he belly flopped onto Gaara's bed. The thing creaked and groaned, bouncing on its spindly legs and rusty coils. Gaara's bed smelled good. No matter how old the thing got, it always smelled like something spicy. "Bounce on it some more, Naruto. It just might break." Gaara's voice came from the bathroom connected to his room. No one wanted to share a bathroom with Gaara, so they gave him the secluded room with one built in. "Why would you want it to break?" Naruto asked, pulling his head out from beneath the disheveled sand-colored and black sheets on Gaara's bed. Gaara's head poked out of his open bathroom door. Yashimaru says when it breaks I'll have to sleep on the floor. The thing's like a dying animal anyway. Why not put it out of its misery? Why would you want to sleep on the floor? Naruto questioned. Much more comfortable, Gaara replied. Naruto rolled his eyes. Why don't you just drag all your stuff onto the floor and sleep there then? Because Yashimaru won't let me. He says it's bad for my back. Geez, it's like you're an old man or something. That's what I said. Naruto rolled over and batted Gaara's tattered curtains around. The room was a modest size. It was bigger than Kankuro or Temari's rooms. They gave it to him without a fight, though. Naruto smiled, probably because they knew he'd beat them to a bloody pulp. There was one thing that Gaara didn't have in his room, and that his siblings did. Carpet. Naruto swore his friend was obsessed with torturing himself. His room was cold as ice, but he didn't seem to mind. Naruto on the other hand, was freezing his tail off. He wrapped Gaara's comforter around himself and shivered. Were you born in the Sahara or something? Gaara kidded from inside his bathroom. Quiet, you. Just because you were born at the North Pole doesn't mean you can make fun of me for being cold. You're such a crybaby, Naruto. Eskimo. Bedouin. What the hell is that? It's a guy who wanders around the desert, smart ass. Oh yeah, well at least I don't eat whales. You eat anything you can get your hands on. And you have to sleep with camels. Well, you sleep with polar bears. Your mother's a camel. Yours is a walrus. Was a walrus. Oh, yeah, right. Sorry. I'm over it. Whatcha doin' in there anyway? Naruto was suddenly curious. Giving myself a tattoo, the red-headed Eskimo replied. You're what? Naruto shot up off of Gaara's bed and sped toward the bathroom door. Relax. It's just a henna tattoo. Want one? Gaara was sitting calmly on the floor and waving his arm around. He had his wall-mounted mirror propped up against the bottom of his counter. What's a henna tattoo? Naruto asked as he took a seat next to his friend. It's a design you make on your arm using this goopy paste stuff. It's perfectly harmless. Naruto became curious. Does it hurt? Of course not. Gaara blew on his wrist, and it wears off in a week or two. Naruto glanced at his friend's arm. There was a green, slimy-looking ring around his wrist. What's it supposed to be? He asked innocently. Gaara twisted his arm around. It's a snake. Cool, isn't it? Naruto tilted his head. The slimy, green thing was really a serpent winding its way up Gaara's arm. Yeah, spiffy. I want one. Gaara picked up a tube of paste from his side. Where? On my ass. Well, turn around then. Pervert. Who's the pervert? PFT, you're no fun. Whatever. So really, where do you want me to put this thing? Naruto thought a moment. My belly button. Gaara blinked. Where? He quirked an eyebrow. Yes, Gaara had eyebrows. You just couldn't see them. My belly button. Wouldn't that be cool? Naruto chuckled. Or are you having perverted thoughts and you're too embarrassed to put one there? Gaara huffed. I just don't want you giggling up a storm. I don't want to have to redo your tattoo because it tickles, got it? Got it. So what do you want? Come again, Naruto asked quizzically. What do you want me to do for your little tattoo? What design? Gaara specified. Oh, the blonde boy thought, a swirl. I want a swirl around my belly button. Alright, a swirl it is then. For the next few minutes, Gaara worked diligently on Naruto's tattoo. To his surprise, there was minimal laughing, so he didn't make any major screw-ups. They didn't talk much, but it was a friendly silence. Naruto would recall the occasional highlight of his day and Gaara would nod his head to show he was listening. And then I said I apologized to the duck. You know, like I was insulting the duck. Naruto chuckled a little, but I kinda feel bad about that. That and I really need his forgiveness if I don't want to wind up as a turkey in my mom's freezer. Yeah, Gaara sighed, I figured. She's a greedy, avaricious, money whore, if you don't mind my opinion. You're right, she is a whore, Naruto added slyly, in more than one way. I can talk about your mom like that, but you can't. She loves you more than she lets on. Gaara reprimanded in a serious tone. How's that? Naruto asked dryly. For starters, if she didn't love you, you would have been dead from the moment she found out you were a dude. Yeah, I suppose. Naruto meditated for a while. Gaara. Naruto tilted his head. Do you like anyone? Well, wasn't that a random thought? Gaara considered the question. Not really, he said in a hesitant sort of way. His tone of voice made Naruto believe that there was something more to it. Oh really? He leered at Gaara. Yes, really, the redhead clearly didn't want to talk about it. Naruto waved his hands around. Tell me. Tell me, tell me, tell me, tell me. Who's the lucky girl? Gaara's eye twitched. Oh ho, I see now. You're a queer like me. Then Naruto assumed a shocked look. You don't like me, do you? Gaara rolled his eyes. Of course not, idiot. I pity the man who's stupid enough to like you. Naruto pouted. Tell me, then. No, yes, no. Yes, I'm not telling you, you know. My lips are sealed. Not fair. Gaara paid no attention to him. There, said Gaara, stepping back to admire his work, just don't let it get smeared by your shirt. It'll dry in a while. Keep your shirt up a bit until then. Sweet, thanks. Naruto admired Gaara's handiwork. He grabbed the tube of paste off the floor and sniffed it. It was sweet, yet spicy. Kind of like Pepsi. Funny, so that's what Gaara's bed smelled like. I make the stuff myself, Gaara pointed out as a matter-of-factly. Ah, so that's why everything smells nice. Where do you get all the ingredients? Around, Gaara shrugged, you just have to know where to look. Oh, right, Mr. Resourceful, you're probably buying this stuff illegally or something. Naruto fanned his tattoo. The red-haired one was too busy digging under his bed for something. He didn't hear what Naruto had to say. Eventually, as the curses started flying fluently out of Gaara's mouth, the little blonde boy got curious. Whatcha, looking for? Naruto hopped around on his friend's bed, mindful of his tattoo. A phone book, Gaara muttered a reply. Damn it, I can't figure out where I put it. A phone book? Why would we need a phone book? Naruto glanced down at Gaara. The red-haired boy was still digging in a pile of God knew what. You don't want your mom to kill you, and you feel bad, so we'll just call Sasuke and get it over with. No, Naruto waved his arms around in the air like a maniac, that's suicide. He'll kill me. Relax, he won't kill you. Gaara stated calmly. How do you know that? Naruto wheezed as he tugged on his hair. There are just a few things I pay more attention to than you do, you buffoon. He dragged something out from under his bed. Here it is, he said, tossing it up onto his bed and pulling his cell phone off of his dresser. He flipped through the pages. Uchiha. Humphrey, Hunt, Hyatt, Hines, Hyuga, 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 Hyuga. Where are you, Hyuga Neji? Sasuke flipped through his phone book. He was intent on finding the address of his hated rival. Neji's house would burn if it was the last thing Uchiha Sasuke did. His phone rang. He glanced uncaringly at his caller ID. Haruno. That was Sakura's house calling, and the big four-headed girl was probably on the other line. She would leave him an annoying message if he didn't answer the phone. He was feeling delightfully wicked today, so he decided to answer the phone for her. Sasuke is a man-whore, he deadpanned and hung up. Ah, that felt good. He sifted through the list of names again when the phone rang yet another time. He glanced again at the caller ID to see some name he didn't know. He let them leave a message. You've reached the house of Uchiha Sasuke. Either I don't know you, I hate you, I'm gone, I'm dead, or I'm just too damn lazy to answer the phone. I'd prefer that you don't leave me a message, but if you have to, leave it after the beep. Beep. Ah, Gaara, I told you he wouldn't answer the phone. Sasuke's ears perked up. Wasn't that Naruto's whiny voice on the other line? He wanted to answer the phone, but stalled and enjoyed the way the blonde idiot struggled. Just talk, you idiot. He'll get the message sooner or later. Sasuke heard a muffled voice in the background and he assumed it was Gaara's. Sasuke. Naruto whined uneasily. I'm sorry for all that stuff I did. I want to make it up to you somehow. Ooh, it seemed like Sasuke was about to get himself a new bitch. Eat that, ferret bastard Hyuga. Maybe I can do some stuff for you, you know, carry books to different classes and stuff. Or maybe I could work at your house or something. You know, maid kind of deal. Score. I'm calling from Gaara's cell, so don't call back. If you get this message, I suppose we could talk at school or something. Bye, click. Sasuke relaxed on his leather couch. He was the king. No, he was God. He half expected to see a heavenly ray of light glowing from his window, but then remembered that all the curtains were drawn. He had to keep Orochimaru out. The windows were closed, and the doors were bolted shut. He was not going to be bothered by his guardian. He didn't want to put up with him. He was also more than creeped out at what had almost happened yesterday afternoon. Why was everyone he knew a horny little queer? And Orochimaru, the man who took care of him, just had to be the horniest of them all. He growled. He no longer felt the urge to call Neji and threaten his meaningless existence. He tiptoed silently over to his panoramic windows, glanced out, then crept back to his spot on the couch. Orochimaru wasn't there. Good. He was feeling slightly tired, but he jumped at every sound and barked at every shadow. He already shot up for the night, but the feel-good effects of his heroin wore off in a flash. Afterward, he felt sleepy. He didn't like feeling sleepy. Especially when there was a pedophile lurking around his apartment. His eyes drooped. Today was only half good. With that thought, Sasuke yawned and fell asleep on his couch. Phew, wasn't that cool, Chibigara? Oh yes. Very cool. And if any of you haven't heard, Immigrant Song, by Led Zeppelin, you haven't lived. Chibi Iruka, rock on. X3, Chibi Sasuke, hehehe, Naruto's my bitch. Chibi Naruto, have you ever noticed that we swear like sailors? Chibi Sasuke, Chibi Naruto, Jesus Christ. Wait a second, shuts eyes tight bad picture. Bad picture. I noticed my portrayal of Orochimaru did the trick. He's a slimy, despicable little carnivorous, blood-sucking invertebrate. He's scum, and we all hate him for a reason. That's why I just had to incorporate him into this FIC. And when he's served his purpose, I think I'll let Itachi squish him. Sasuke. Muahahaha. Sasuke's eyes sparkled with pain as he looked up at his older brother. Itachi laughed heartlessly, foolish brother. He swiped the knife across Sasuke's neck and the young boy screamed, once again scrambling away from his brother. Why, Itachi? Sasuke cried miserably, huddled in a corner like a drowned puppy. He fretfully ran a finger over the long gash. Sasuke felt his blood dripping down his collarbone. He stuck his finger in it, and for some unknown reason, he brought it to his lips and licked the blood off. Itachi snorted and glowered down at his brother, "You're such a fool. To think you never saw that coming. You just welcomed me with open arms, without protest, even though it was I who nearly killed you." But, Sasuke whined with teary eyes, "You're my brother." Itachi turned his back to his younger brother with an audible, harumph. "Why should it make any difference whether I am your brother or not?" he hissed in a cold voice. Sasuke stood up and cried, "I trusted you. That's what brothers do." Itachi was silent, as if he were meditating. Sasuke stood there in his pajamas. He was cold and terrified. His brother's sudden lack of speech unnerved him and only added to the terrible feeling in his chest. A scornful frown graced Itachi's lips. Trust. Trust is a senseless emotion. The younger boy shivered. This wasn't the Itachi he knew. The old Itachi helped him with his homework, took him out for ice cream, and gave him piggyback rides. He blinked uncertainly at his brother. No, this man whose name he didn't know. He clenched his fists and screeched despairingly at the man, "What did you do with my brother?" A hollow laugh came as his response. "Your brother is dead, like the rest of your family." He leered at the cold, young Sasuke, "I am all that is left." Sasuke was confused. The man looked just like Itachi, and when he hugged him, he felt just like Itachi. But he didn't sound like the older brother he knew. His voice was cold and hollow, like a flute with no holes, a piano with no keys, a violin with no strings. The sounds of sirens wailed off in the distance. The man raised his head, listening carefully to the sound. His eyes narrowed and he sneered as if he were annoyed. "Damn neighbors," he cursed with a deranged look in his eyes, "they must have heard your stupid uncle. The bastard. He never learned how to keep his mouth shut." Bile rose in Sasuke's throat as the image of the headless Obito flashed through his head. He quickly squelched the feeling when the man whirled around to face him. His eyes were glowing like embers. The sirens grew closer. What he did next stunned Sasuke. The man tossed his bloody knife at the boy. It hit the ground at Sasuke's feet with a metallic twang. "Look, Sasuke," he removed his coat and held out his arms to the shivering boy, "I am unarmed. That knife was the only weapon I had." Sasuke's big eyes were focused on the man's inhospitable figure. Confused, his eyes drifted to the dripping knife sitting harmlessly at his feet. Sasuke stared up at the man. He was his brother, but he wasn't. His brother was in there somewhere. Itachi was still there, but his mind had been taken over by some maniac. Sasuke wanted his brother back. "Your brother is gone, Sasuke. I killed him," the man said dryly as his lips pressed together in a serious, thin line, "all that's left is me. I want you to take that knife, Sasuke." Sasuke sniffled and blinked two childish eyes at the stranger who was his brother. And I want you to kill me. Sasuke was dumbfounded. What did the man just say? Was he out of his mind? Sasuke couldn't kill him. He wasn't his brother, and yet he was. Sasuke knew his brother was in there somewhere, he just had to bring him out somehow. The confused boy picked up the knife with a trembling hand. The handle was still warm. He glanced worriedly at the man. He was waiting silently with his arms hanging limply at his sides. Suspecting a trick, he glared accusingly at the man, who held his hands out again and declared for the second time that he had no weapon. Sasuke stared shamefully down on the knife he held in his hands. Tears filled his eyes once again. It felt so wrong, to be holding the knife that murdered his family. It was a feeling Sasuke never wanted to experience. He shut his eyes tight and shook his head. He felt horrible, he could not kill his own brother. The sirens were blaring. I can't, his voice wavered, I can't do it. The man glowered and his eyes narrowed dangerously. Why not, Sasuke? I slaughtered your family, your brother, and if you don't kill me, I might get rid of you as well. Sasuke's eyes were overflowing again. Tears streamed down his face. I can't do it, you're not my brother, but I know he's still in there. He screeched. Itachi. The boy called out vainly, looking the man straight in the eyes. Come back, Itachi. I'm scared. The man turned his eyes in the direction of the sirens. His head snapped back. Kill me now, fool. Sasuke screamed despairingly. No. I'll never kill my own brother. Then his eyes narrowed and he glared poison at the man. But if you truly did murder my brother, and he's not in there somewhere, then someday I will kill you. The sirens were less than a block away. The man's eyes turned to ice. Foolish brother, he hissed, if you want to kill me, then hate, spite, and survive pathetically. He turned his back and walked into the house, leaving Sasuke alone in the cold. Run and run, he glanced back. And cling desperately to life. With that, the man who was Itachi disappeared. Sasuke never saw him again. Sasuke jerked awake at the sound of the telephone ringing once again. Before answering, he glanced at his clock. It was 1:30 in the morning. Who the hell would call him at such a time? Orochimaru. He eyed the phone apprehensively. If it was he, his guardian, who was on the other end of that phone, there was no way Sasuke was going to pick it up. No way. He crawled over to the caller ID and lifted the lighted screen up to his face. He squinted, and then numbly dropped it on the floor. The monitor said the call had come from Orochimaru's office. He was not picking up that phone. The phone rang for the umpteenth time before his answering machine kicked into gear. It drawled out his favorite message, then beeped. God, how he loved that answering machine. Sasuke, don't worry, it's Kabuto. Thank you Jesus. Before Orochimaru's secretary could say more, Sasuke snatched up the telephone. Hello, his voice dripped with fatigue. Ah, I figured you'd be tired at this time of night. Kabuto sounded as if he were scratching his head in slight embarrassment. Then why the hell did you call me? Sasuke growled. Orochimaru-sama told me to. Sasuke rolled his eyes. Kabuto was nice and all, but he was still Orochimaru's bitch. He did absolutely everything the scum asked him to do. Like a dog, he was one of those golden retriever dog types. Always loyal. Since when is he, Orochimaru-sama? Kabuto said nothing. What does that bastard want? Sasuke groaned. The white-haired man sounded offended. I'll thank you not to speak of him that way in my presence, Uchiha-san. Right, whatever. What does he want? Orochimaru-sama asked me to tell you that he was going on a business trip for a while. He also added that he apologized, but you would have to wait. Sasuke scoffed. I don't mean to intrude, Kabuto said with a suspicious tone of voice, but would I be wrong to assume that there is something going on between you two? Nothing is going on between us, and you can go ahead and tell him that. Sasuke droned with an unimpressed tone. Rhyming, he'd kill whoever invented it. Ah, I see, I'll tell him that then. Kabuto sounded remotely relieved. That all? Sasuke growled irritably. Is that all you have to say, or are you waiting to tell me something else? Sasuke's voice went cold. About my brother, perhaps. Kabuto sighed. Leave your brother in his grave. You won't accomplish anything by mutilating his dead body. And where is his grave? Sasuke sneered and hissed. Kabuto sounded as if he was going to reply, but his breath caught in his throat and he stayed silent. I thought so, Sasuke snorted. Goodbye, Kabuto. With that, he ended the call and slammed the phone back down in its place. He curled back up on his couch. So Orochimaru was out of town. Well, wasn't that a relief? Maybe in the time he was away from Sasuke, he'd finally give up and screw a tree. Or maybe his time alone would just make him want Sasuke more and more. Blah. Sasuke suffocated the thought. He had been thoroughly creeped out by his own imagination. And now, there was a problem. How to keep Naruto away from Orochimaru. Or how to use her to piss him off. Yes. Brilliant. Maybe some jealousy would help to put the bastard in his place. Plus, if he got mad, it was Naruto's head and not his. Of course, if he killed Naruto, he still might feel angry enough to try to screw Sasuke senseless, but sacrifices had to be made. Besides, if Orochimaru touched him, Sasuke would scalp him, then stab him. Hell, he'd castrate the bastard. The black-haired boy milled around his apartment for a while, indecisive as to whether he should go back to sleep or not. He eventually strolled over to a large picture he had on the wall. It was a Chinese painting of a fan and a few sakura blossoms. Sasuke shuddered. Sakura was such a dirty word. It was a Chinese painting of a fan and a few cherry blossoms. Ah, much better. It was one of the few things he did not allow Orochimaru to remove from his home. He told him that it was a precious family heirloom and he wanted to keep it for that reason. In fact, the real reason was something else entirely. The painting was really nothing more than a cheap decoration his father bought at a flea market on a business trip to Beijing. The reason Sasuke wanted the picture left where it was because behind it was hidden a vault in the wall. Inside the vault was Sasuke's most prized possession. His second freezer, the one that held all the booze. And the tequila, and the vodka, and the scotch, and the beer, and the rum, and the whiskey, and the sake, and the cognac. What could he say? Intoxication was the ultimate stress reliever. Probably because he passed out after a while, but that was beside the point. Ah, Kisame. The guy looked like a shark, but he somehow managed to sell Sasuke any type of alcoholic beverage he could get his fins on. He never got caught. As far as Sasuke knew, he was still lounging in his spot behind the cash register, smoking a cigarette and tapping his fins together in a greedy manner. For some odd reason, he was always humming the "Ring Around the Rosies" song, but the kids all got eaten by sharks in the end. He seemed like an interesting fellow, but Sasuke didn't mind as long as he got his booze. Gotta love that booze. And tequila, and vodka, and scotch, and beer, and rum, and whiskey, and sake, and cognac. Kisame was also the one with all the drug connections. There were times when Sasuke considered making Kisame his best friend. Liquor and heroin made the world go round. Kisame made the world go round. He'd have to introduce Naruto to him when he got the chance. Sasuke gracelessly shoved the large painting over and twisted the lock. 24, 46, 18. Clink. The ethically confused teen swung the vault open and rummaged through its contents. A few minutes later, he happily took a swig of sake. Ah, liquor enriched the soul. It also rotted the mind, but hey, who needs a mind? Sasuke downed the rest of the half-empty bottle in 2 gulps. Come 5 a.m., and Sasuke woke up a second time. He wrinkled his nose. He felt funny. His vision was fuzzy, his tongue was cotton, and when he stood up, he crashed to the floor. Sasuke had issues. More than he cared to share, actually. He picked himself off the floor and stumbled along the wall. He wasn't an alcoholic. He only reserved his precious liquor for emergencies such as depression, boredom, and dull block parties. Sure, alcohol was nice in the beginning, but the after effects made even Sasuke think about what he'd done wrong. He marveled at his ability to do well in school. By all logical means, he should have been poor, ugly, and utterly brainless. But God smiled down on Sasuke in these fields. Why? Sasuke had no idea. God seemed to enjoy torturing him with the rest of life. There was one ray of sunshine for him to look forward to, however. Today he lost a stalker and gained a bitch. Oh, the things he'd make Naruto do. He tapped his fingers together and smiled serenely. The bitch would have to listen to him, no matter what. And that Neji bastard couldn't do anything about it. Lunchtime, and Naruto was once again flirting with Neji. His voice was making Gaara sick. He was tired of hearing the girly boy's voice rambling on and on like a broken record. Gods, did Sasuke know what he was getting into? It appeared that Neji was getting sick of it too. Gaara swore it looked like his ears were on the verge of popping off. He smirked at the thought. He didn't think he wanted to see the Asian boy's ears pop off, but the image was hilarious. Naruto claimed that he wanted to get to art class early, so Neji and the redhead bid him goodbye. When Naruto galloped off the scene, Both boys found the silence uncomfortable. Neji was still in the act of eating his lunch, and Gaara wasn't hungry. Both sat on the curb and watched the cars fly by. A blue butterfly fluttered into the redhead's view. He was bored, and the butterfly beckoned him to catch it. His arm shot out in an attempt to grab it, but the insect only flew farther away. Frustrated, he let it wander closer before swiping at it again. For the second time, the butterfly flew off. It fluttered about him for some time. Gaara really wanted to catch the bastard, but it danced out of his reach again. He tried something new. He let the bastard come closer. The butterfly fluttered around his head for a time and he watched it. It seemed so close, yet Gaara knew that if he attempted to catch the thing, it would only fly further away. He let it come closer until it was literally brushing its wings against him. He sat calmly, watching the little, daring butterfly zip about. It had its fun. Gaara watched as the tiny thing came and rested silently on his shoulder. He wanted so much to reach out and touch it. He did. He realized his fault when the small insect left his shoulder and once again soared out of his sight. Gaara turned his attention to Neji. The boy seemed so calm, suave, and serene. He didn't seem like the type who would love Naruto. Hell, he didn't seem like someone who'd put up with Naruto. Do you really love Naruto? He found himself speaking his mind. It seemed to Gaara that Neji was glaring a hole in his back, but he didn't dare look. He wasn't intimidated by the pale-eyed boy or anything, he just felt, he didn't know what to call it. Embarrassed? No, that wasn't it. Shameful? No, not that either. What was it? A feeling for which he had no name. Why do you ask? Neji continued to eat his lunch. To Gaara's amazement, he didn't sound suspicious. Maybe to him, this was just another question. No reason, really, he lied. Neji thought a moment. I suppose so. He sounded a bit unsure of himself. You don't know. Gaara raised an eyebrow and cast a surprised look in Neji's direction. Neji shrugged it off, not really. Then again, I suppose I don't care. You don't care? Gaara droned in a flat voice. No, I've never really thought about it before, but I'm not sure I care what Naruto does. More so, I'm not sure I care whether I love her or not. That may be. Gaara glared irritatedly at Neji, but from what I hear, you don't care about Naruto either. Neji stopped slurping noodles. Do you feel anything for her? Gaara was staring Neji in the face with his arms at his sides, anything at all. The redhead turned his attention to the road. Someone once told me that when you really love someone, you feel warm inside, you know, like butterflies in your stomach and shit like that. The Asian boy snorted and shook his head. If it's true love you're blabbing about, then no. I suppose I don't feel anything of the sort. Then maybe you haven't found what you're looking for, Gaara sighed. What? Neji stared at the boy like he'd grown a second head. Perhaps you've found a girl you like, and I'm sure she likes you back. But I think the only reason you put up with her is because she's the only thing your rival doesn't have. She's just a pawn, and you refuse to acknowledge the fact that maybe you should give Sasuke the surprise of his life. Give her up. You'll be happier that way. Let the bastard have what he wants. You win this untold competition of yours, and she will be nothing but a nuisance to you. Gaara was surprised at himself. He was never this sentimental before. Sometimes you have to sacrifice things to be happy, you know. And in the end, they might not seem like sacrifices at all. Neji stared for a while, long enough for him to collect his thoughts. Gaara was right. He hated to admit it, but the red-headed wonder dug up something he overlooked. Maybe he was too caught up in his pride. No, Naruto was his bitch. He loved her, and he knew it. I love her, he stated as if he were completely sure of himself. I won't give her up. He lounged back and a confident smirk appeared across his face. What about you? Neji sneered. Do you love Naruto? No, Gaara stated simply, in a friendly way, maybe. The brat needs someone to protect her sorry little ass when she gets herself in deep shit. I'm just there to scare away the evil people. Gaara glanced detachedly at his watch, then stood up and dusted his trench coat off. I don't know exactly what love is supposed to feel like. No one has ever cared enough to show me what it is, he stated numbly. Neji's grin dissipated and he straightened up from his relaxed stance. He watched as Gaara turned to leave. I've never known what love is, and I don't think I'll ever learn. But I think I might know what it feels like, if only a little. When I'm with a certain person, I feel warm inside, like love is supposed to feel. I feel butterflies in my stomach when I talk to this person, even though I've hardly ever spoken to them at all. I've witnessed a lot of things in my life and recognized plenty of emotions. I don't think I've ever felt this way for someone, and I never will again. But love comes with pain. There is so much pain in my life that it has become my constant companion. But this is different. I can live with bruises, slashes, and broken bones because they will heal in a short time. It's the pain in my heart that will never heal. Neji was giving him the, and why should I care, glance. Gaara sighed inaudibly. Stop trying, fool, you're talking to the air. I'm sure a spoiled rotten rich bastard like you would never understand, but do you have any idea how a person could hurt so much? Do you have the remotest idea of what sort of pain this is? Neji didn't know what to think. Seeing the expression on his face, Gaara looked away detachedly. Perhaps this is the agony someone feels when they have all the love in the world waiting in their hands. Gaara's feet worked and he walked slowly, purposefully away. And the only one they can give it to is too blind to see. Naruto strolled into class early. He wanted to get a few finishing touches on his first art project before it was due. Perry-sensei was reclining at her desk, typing madly on the computer. She looked up from her work curiously. Seeing the golden-haired girly boy at the door, she returned her attention to her work as if he wasn't important enough to worry about. At first glance, it would seem as if she and Naruto were the only people in the room. When the blonde was retrieving his folder from a disorganized pile, however, he felt a pair of dark eyes burning identical holes in the back of his sweatshirt. Puzzled, he twisted his head around to find two people sitting in a dark corner. One had his hair up in a ponytail, and Naruto immediately recognized him as Gopher Boy. The other was a rather unimpressed-looking, dark-haired, pale-skinned boy. Naruto noticed with interest that there was a whimsical strand of hair dangling right in front of his nose. Sasuke looked as if he were expectant of something. Naruto blinked. Ah, yes, the phone call. He must have gotten the message. Naruto waved like the hyperactive gerbil he was, and felt rather ashamed of himself when Sasuke gave him the, "You are such a dumbass" look. He wandered over to Sasuke, taking each step forward with an oddly determined look in his eyes. The infamous Uchiha quirked an eyebrow and said nothing. Naruto fell into the seat next to the Uchiha as if he didn't give a damn. This earned him a rather amused look from the stoic Sasuke. Before speaking a word, he glanced over at Shikamaru. The lazy ass was fast asleep. Naruto wondered if he did that often. His indecision was clear in his voice while his posture suggested otherwise. I take it you got my message. Sasuke lounged impassively in his chair. I did, he declared with a slight smirk gracing his lips. Naruto felt uncomfortable. It felt just plain weird sitting next to Sasuke without flames being blown in his face. He distractedly played with his hair. And, Sasuke gave Naruto a confident leer, I'm going to let you work for me. Let him. Sasuke was going to let him work for him. Naruto swore there was a divine aura of red light that flashed with every word he said. Sasuke was like God. He dripped power and control with everything he did. Sasuke aloofly picked up a pencil and continued drawing what he was drawing. Naruto swore he heard the pencil cry, I will bend to your will, Almighty God. Before it was picked up. Okay, Naruto drawled out, still eyeing the pencil warily, what should I do? Come with me after school each school day. Dust my house, vacuum it, wash the floors, sweep, and do whatever else I want you to do, Sasuke commanded with his godly voice. Wash my car, he had a car. Do the dishes, okay, he had a car, but he didn't have a friggin' dishwasher. And run errands. What errands? How many things could this guy possibly need him to do? And how could he do all these things when he didn't have a bike, let alone a Ferrari? Why the hell didn't he have a maid? Maybe he let her go. Right, he fired his maid so Naruto could go and clean his house for him. Wait a sec. I'll pay you according to how much you do, and how well you do it. Oh, that could mean so many dirty things. The time he spent at his uncle's house was having an effect on his thought process. Alright, so when do I start? He tried his best to sound confident. Today. What? That early? My mom hasn't seen me for 2 days. If that's too early then I can always change my mind. He saw the look on the Uchiha's face and thought twice. Today's fine. He squeaked a little too quickly. Good. Sasuke scraped the pencil against his paper. The only sounds were the clicking of a keyboard, the scratching of a pencil, and the snoring of Gopher Boy. There was no foreshadowing of another conversation between Naruto and the stoic boy. Naruto decided to get the hell away. He mixed a few watercolor paints together and sat down at his table. Over the past few days, he had drawn a picture of a fox. It was a flaming, red fox with gigantic ears and 9 tails. He didn't particularly know the reason reminded him of his mother, but nevertheless, when he looked at its face, he heard his mother's harsh voice. Apologize. You've gotta be friggin' kidding me. He wondered how Sasuke knew he'd be here early. Maybe Sasuke was God. Naruto shuddered. If he really was, then the mere mortals of Earth were in some deep shit. Especially him. Naruto was in deeper shit than he cared to dig himself out of. He took a fine brush and went over the painting with various details. Highlights and shadows. A sparkle here and an ember there. Add a little more purple to the background. After school, Naruto quirked an eyebrow and glanced behind him. Sasuke was looking at him with an expression Naruto couldn't read. Flagpole in the front. Meet me there. Well, that went considerably well. How did she know he'd be here early anyway? Probably just a slip-up on her part. He watched the blonde's cute little ass as she zipped about the room, then took up temporary residence in her chair. She seemed rather absorbed in her work, but Sasuke knew from experience that she had something else on her mind. She busied herself with meticulous brush strokes. Sasuke wondered what she could be so religious about. Maybe she signed up for this class because she liked art, and not just because it was an easy credit. Shikamaru was too lazy for art. Sasuke figured the slob signed up for it because he thought he could pass. He wasn't going to do much passing with his head on the table, though. Why was Sasuke in art? It gave him something to do. All his frustration was kept inside of him during the school day, so he figured he'd murder a piece of paper in the most imaginative way possible. He wasn't nearly as stressed out when he had something with which to occupy his mind. That also explained why he was such a fruitcake. Heroin was something that made all his problems melt. When he was high, Itachi disappeared. The blood smell all over the carpet drifted away. The dull throb of the scar on his neck faded. His pesky memories were dragged around a dark corner and quietly suffocated. He also had dreams about pink dolphins, blue mailboxes singing Disney songs, and a necrophiliac who loved to perform Chinese water torture on him, but that was irrelevant. He had a dream once that Kisame really was a shark, and he was swimming around a kiddie pool, eating everyone in sight. He knew Kisame would like to hear about that one. Kisame's fantasies come true. Sasuke wondered distantly if the shark man really ate babies. He probably did it for kicks. He boredly surveyed his picture. It was a black, white, and red composition. Hitler, a railroad going over a cliff, a knife, a mad cat, Lady Liberty, a mockingbird, and a few stray splotches of blood. Express your feelings, Sasuke-kun. You want to know my feelings, little Miss Psychotherapist? Give me that sharp-looking pen on the corner of your desk and I might show you. Psychotherapist. Psycho the rapist. There he had it. Psychotherapists were psycho-rapists. He wondered if that was an intentional clue. That would definitely explain a few things. Students were arriving. They slowly dribbled through the door. One by one they scooped up their shit and sat in their normal seats. Naruto was still adding finishing touches, it seemed. Jesus, how many details in this little, insignificant picture could there possibly be? Was Naruto a perfectionist or something? The way she did her hair suggested she was quite the opposite. She was an intriguing personality, Sasuke admitted to himself. Perry-sensei went about explaining their next assignment. Honestly, the thing could have been explained in less than 2 minutes, but the art teacher decided to go into detail about every word she said. Class, we're making Mardi Gras masks next. You can use feathers, glitter, paint. Mardi Gras originated in the country of. You know, when I was young, I went to a Mardi Gras celebration in Germany and if the stains don't come out of your clothes. Azaleas are the most beautiful flowers, I think. Cinnamon is really. Yada yada yada. Seriously, Sasuke didn't give a flying about what she liked. She already told him how to make a mother mask, for God's sake. She beat the dead topic with a blunt stick until it was nailed 6 feet into the ground, buried it, dug it up, beat it again, burnt it, and then used a portable fan to spread the ashes all over the world. The drab atmosphere in the art room inspired something unprecedented to happen. Sasuke got a song stuck in his head. Odd, Sasuke never got songs stuck in his head. He couldn't remember the words. As the tune repeated itself over and over in his head, Sasuke couldn't help but feel frustrated that he didn't remember the words. Something about a hooker, and a dude in a dress. And heroin. Damn it, get it out of your head, Sasuke. Think of something else. No hookers and girly men in school. What other songs were there? Think, damn it, an old song maybe. Yes, he'd think of an old song. Heroin, oh, screw it, the damn thing was stuck in his head. It wasn't going to leave anytime soon. And when he forgot it, he'd think, oh, I remember that there was something in my head earlier today, and it would restart. That happened to him a lot. He would never admit it, but he got distracted more than everyone thought. He hurriedly sorted through his backpack for another piece of paper. Perry bitch was rambling on and on about her summer vacation while Sasuke scribbled on his paper. He glanced uncaringly over at Naruto. She was doing the same thing, only her work seemed to have more purpose to it. She seemed deeply absorbed in her painting. She was probably better at art than he was. No, Sasuke was the shit, and that was that. The shit. He was too good to paint fanciful flaming foxes. In real life, there were no fantastic fire creatures. Fantasy had no place in reality. This was reality. Perhaps Naruto hadn't noticed. Perry-sensei gave up her speech, seeing as everyone was being put to sleep by it, and retired to her desk where she resumed her furious typing. She was probably emailing someone. Or maybe she was writing a fanfiction. But who in their right mind would write a fanfiction during school hours? He recalled then that most people working in this funny farm lacked a right mind. The bell rang and school was over. Naruto waited until half of the class had left through the door. He then glided over to Iruka's desk with a mischievous grin plastered on his face. Iruka recognized the look and glanced warily at the approaching blonde. Sue, Naruto casually leaned against the desk, trying not to look too suspicious. Anything interesting happened today? No, Iruka answered skeptically. Nothing at all. Naruto rested his head in his hands and stared cross-eyed into the confused eyes of the teacher. No, Iruka knitted his eyebrows together. Why? Oh, no reason, Naruto lied. Iruka snorted. Yeah, right. And that's why you're so eager to know what happened to me today. I suppose you're just wondering, right? Yep. You're impossible. Yep. Iruka rolled his eyes. He tapped his pencil on the desk for a time, then quizzically turned his vision to Naruto, who was still there. Why was she still there? Was there something the crazy girl wanted from him? He asked her. She then popped back into reality and waved to him as she left for home. He stared at the place she had been for several seconds, blinked once or twice, then distractedly tapped his pencil against his desk again. When Naruto walked out the front entrance of Konoha, the first thing he saw was a very unhappy Uchiha sitting cross-legged on the cement next to the flagpole. He'd forgotten about their little deal. Dark eyes cast a deeply displeased look in his general direction. Oh, Jesus, help him now. He laughed it off and traveled awkwardly over to Sasuke. You see, I wanted to. You're late, Dobi. Naruto tilted his head. Dobi, what was that? Some sort of insult? Or maybe it was a pet name. Naruto couldn't decide which. I was talking to Iruka-sensei, Tim. He retorted as he put his hands on his hips and drew out the vowels of the last word. Sasuke raised an eyebrow. Naruto stuck his tongue out at him. You've wasted enough of my time, Sasuke droned with disinterest. Now let's go. Naruto stood in his place as the Uchiha walked off. He swore he saw the little blades of grass on the school lawn parting as Sasuke passed by. He jogged up to the dark-haired boy when he noticed he was being left behind. 20 or so minutes later, Naruto found himself gazing up at skyscrapers in the heart of the Konoha district. He'd been in the general area before, but never to Spencer Street. All of the high-rise apartment buildings screamed, the people who live here were born rich, are currently rich, will be rich for the rest of their lives, and really won't give a damn if you get run over by a bus. He gawked at the expensive-looking edifices with a look of awe mixed with sheer terror. How the hell could people afford to live like that? He let out a surprised yelp as he bumped into something. Watch it, Dobi, Sasuke warned with a poisonous tone. Dobi, Dobi. What the hell was it supposed to mean anyway? Oh well, if Sasuke insisted on calling him Dobi, then Naruto'd just have to call him Tem. Naruto brushed himself off and pouted, I wouldn't have run into you if you hadn't been in my way, Tem. Sasuke gave him a look, then walked over to the entryway of the most expensive-looking building in the area. Naruto rolled his eyes. It all made sense. Sasuke was the richest, most conceited bastard in the city. It only fit that he should live in the biggest, most badass apartment building in the city. And to top it off, he probably owned the nicest, most luxurious apartment in the building. Damn, Naruto's jaw dropped as he stalked through two of the most decorative glass doors he'd ever seen. The apartment building had a lobby. And boy, was it huge. A crystal chandelier hung from the ceiling and sparkled like what Naruto imagined was an enormous disco ball. There were leather chairs, coffee tables, pictures, and a gigantic library-style fireplace. He gaped at the expensive-looking interior of the building, then at Sasuke, who seemed to be quite satisfied with himself. Naruto followed Sasuke to the elevator like a lost puppy. He cast wary and awe-inspired glances around the halls. The heavy oak doors were few and far between, which led him to believe that this building had rooms 3 times the size of his house. Chances were, the rooms were 3 times as big as his house. His house was small-looking, but it had 2.5 floors. He counted the basement as a floor, and since the second floor was smaller than the rest of the building, he called it the half floor. They reached the shiny doors of an elevator. Sasuke did the honors of pushing the button to the top floor. Or at least Naruto thought it was the top floor until he was informed that there was a staircase that led to his apartment. Sasuke had his own private floor. Well, wasn't that special? Naruto gazed at the oblivious Uchiha as the elevator hefted them up umpteen floors. The bastard had everything. He had his own floor, his own apartment, his own car, his own fridge, his own everything, and no parents to bother him. To top it all off, he had all the money in the world. Yet everyone said his life was horrible. How the hell could his life be horrible? The rat bastard was perfect. What could possibly be wrong, right? The elevator dinged and Naruto poked his head out the doors. The stairs are at the end of the hall, Sasuke pointed out. Naruto nodded and followed Mr. Tall Dark and Perfect down the long corridor. A door opened and an old lady wobbled out into the same hallway. Her wrinkles turned upward in a friendly smile. "Good afternoon, Sasuke-san," she said in a warm, worn voice. To Naruto's surprise, Sasuke bowed ever so slightly as he walked past. Naruto just waved at her and the old woman's coffee-stained smile broadened. She said nothing more though and continued to hobble down the hallway. Naruto and Sasuke traveled up the small staircase and to Sasuke's door. The black-haired one sorted through his endless supply of keys and opened the door. Why did the bastard have so many keys? Naruto's eyes surveyed the living room of Sasuke's home. He cautiously removed his shoes and explored the place. "Do you have a phone I could use?" Sasuke crossed his arms and quirked an eyebrow. Duh. That must have seemed like the most moronic question known to mankind. The bastard had a friggin' car. Of course he had a phone. Smart, Naruto. Real suave. "Can I use your phone?" Naruto whined. Sasuke pointed to the phone on an end table next to his couch. "Thanks." Naruto prowled over to the phone and picked it up. He stared at the thing like it had come from Mars. It had too many buttons. Wasn't technology supposed to make things simpler? "Here," Sasuke sighed exasperatedly. He took the cordless phone from Naruto. "First dial the number, then press this button. When you're done, press this button again." "Got it." Naruto nodded. "Good." Sasuke threw the phone back to him, which Naruto dove and caught. He glared peculiarly at Sasuke. How could he do such a thing to his phone? It probably cost him a ton. Poor abused phone. Poor baby. "I'll protect you from Sasuke. He's evil." Sasuke rolled his eyes as he watched Naruto dust the phone off. The blonde saw him vanish around a corner. He dialed his number and pressed the call button. As he listened for his mother, he took his time to admire Sasuke's interior decorating. The walls were either white or a nice blue color. He had blue furniture, with the exception of the couch, and a comfy-looking white rug over a wood floor. Unlike his house, Sasuke's house was clean and orderly. There was nothing cluttered in corners or in little mismatched piles on the floor. His white rug was spotless, and there were no fingerprint marks on the walls. Naruto couldn't understand why he needed a maid if his house was clean anyway. Naruto was brought back to reality by a familiar voice on the phone. "Uzumaki residence, Kyuubi speaking." "Hi Mom," Naruto whispered. "Naruto, where the hell were you last night? I was worried sick about you." Naruto laughed nervously. "I spent the night at Gaara's. I figured you'd still be mad at me. I'm sorry." His mom was in hysterics. "Oh Naruto honey, I'm so sorry." "It's okay, really." "No it's not. I shouldn't have gotten mad at you." "I'm fine Mom, really. I'm at Sasuke's house right now." "What? You're kidding." Naruto's mom coughed a bit. "Cut down on the cigarettes," Naruto chided. "In a few years you'll sound like a dying cow." Kyuubi ignored him. "So how are they?" The Uchihas. They're filthy rich, right? I hate to break it to you, but they're all dead. There was a deep silence on the phone. Naruto finally heard his mom's quizzical voice on the other end. What? Naruto sighed. They all got murdered. His mom flew into mother hen mode. How's Sasuke? How does he look? What does he do? Poor thing. Naruto was moderately surprised that she had a mother hen mode. Then again, he supposed it was only the nature of girls to put family first in situations like this. How long ago was this? A long time ago. Why don't I know any of this? We don't get the paper and we're too ghetto to have TV, remember? Naruto smiled. Maybe we should get a TV. What do you think? That'd be cool. Then I don't have to bug Gaara and watch his. Then of course I'd have to cut down on your fashion budget, Kyuubi hesitated. That's okay, Naruto reassured, I've got lots of clothes. Well, tell Sasuke to take it easy, her voice scratched. I will, Mom, Naruto assured her. Bye. Bye. The blonde hung up. Sasuke was in his dining room with an ear to the wall. He didn't want to feel sorry for the blonde idiot in his living room, but he really couldn't help it. She didn't have a TV. How heartbreaking. You done yet? He droned in his usual, I don't give a, tone of voice. He heard Naruto set the phone back on its podium with a muffled click. Yeah, she replied. Sasuke walked into the room wearing his usual expression of flat-out aloof not niceness. So, the blonde began, what's going on? Sasuke tossed Naruto a washcloth, you can start by dusting my kitchen. Sasuke watched as the clueless little girl stared at the rag, then at him. She gave him a quizzical look and he rolled his eyes, a damp washcloth works better than a duster. Not as dirty. Naruto gave him a look as if to say, oh, reet. Sasuke paid the blonde girl no heed and grabbed his remote off the coffee table. He reclined in another stylish chair and pushed a button on the remote. His 50-inch plasma screen TV blinked to life and he flipped through the channels. For a long time he heard nothing but the buzz of electricity. After a while though, he heard Naruto shuffle into his kitchen. When he knew she was out of earshot, he sighed heavily and sank back into his chair. What was he thinking? With that girl at his house, he couldn't do anything. His arms shook slightly. No drinks. No heroin. No nothing. Damn it. He punched the arm of his chair. Brainless, Sasuke, you didn't give this much thought. Maybe he could sneak a beer in. All he'd have to do was hide it between the cushions on the chair. But getting high was out of the question. There was no way he could shoot up without the blonde noticing. Maybe just a little. Nope, that wouldn't work. She was bound to bounce in when he still had the needle in his arm. He had the worst of luck. He opted to sneak a beer. He slunk over to the large Sakura blossom. Cherry blossom, painting on the wall. He glanced over to the kitchen where he was sure Naruto was busy at work. 24:46. Sasuke! Exclamation mark. Yes, Sasuke was more than annoyed. He yanked the hulking picture back into its place just as Naruto's innocent little face appeared in the doorway to the kitchen. Should I dust the cabinets too? Dust everything. Okay. Naruto vanished back into the kitchen. Sasuke sighed and hurriedly twisted the lock again. 24:46. Sasuke. What the hell? What? Sasuke hissed irritably. You have way too much dust in your house. It scares me. Sasuke stared blankly at Naruto. Why the hell should he care? He bothered him just for that. The corner of his lips twitched. Get to work, he said in an overly harsh tone. Naruto squeaked and once again disappeared into the kitchen.